Hello, everyone. My name is David McLeod, and I am your life mastery coach and best-selling lead author of the new book, Gifts of Wisdom, Practices for Healing and Empowerment, which is now available for sale on Amazon at the link below on the screen. Welcome to my chapter reading sessions for this book, in which you get to meet each author and listen in during a personal reading of that person's entire chapter from this fabulous little book. Today, my guest is Laurie Morin, wise author of Chapter 2. Laurie is a best-selling author and story doula, helping people birth their life stories into being. Her first book, Shiro's Journey, is about her journey to live authentically by giving up people-pleasing. It includes writing prompts and deep questions to help you unearth the challenges standing in the way of your dreams and vision. Well, welcome today, Laurie, and thank you so much for joining me. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me, David.
Well, it's my pleasure, of course. I mean, you're one of the authors in this book, and you've contributed some beautiful stuff for sure. And we're going to find out more about that in a few minutes. But before we get there, I just wanted to get your sense of how did you come to be inspired or called to participate in this collaborative book project?
It was an interesting process because I was already involved in two of Laura's other books. And when I saw this one come across my screen, the original thought was about elder wisdom. And having lived 7 decades now, I've been thinking about that topic a lot. So I thought, how could I not participate in this? We need to have more conversation around this topic.
Right. Yeah. And as I've already explained in a couple of other of these videos, we changed the title because as I said, the concept of wisdom, and even elder wisdom for that matter, seemed to be something that was resonating with a lot of people who haven't reached our age.
Mm-hmm.
And who are starting to embrace that elder wisdom starting in their mid 40s and 50s. And I think that's fantastic. And so I kind of wanted to capture that. I didn't want it to say elder wisdom anymore because we have some youthful people in our group. And so that's why we changed the name to Gifts of Wisdom. But I'm glad you came along for the ride anyway and stuck it out with us. So tell us a little bit about your journey in writing this chapter. What was that like for you, and what did you come up with that maybe was a little different than what you have done before?
Yeah, that's an interesting thing because I have written about this issue before, and I was kind of searching around in my mind for a new topic because I didn't want to just repeat things I've already said in other places and in other books.
Sure.
And something came to mind that really surprised me, and it was about creativity.
Mm-hmm.
And it surprised me because, as you'll hear, I never thought I was creative.
Right.
And it is one of the gifts that came for me, not just with years, but with having the free time after I retired from my legal career, having the free time to explore kind of other aspects of myself.
Right.
So that's what I decided to write about.
Right. And well, creativity is a powerful and important topic, isn't it? And it's something that, we all have creativity, even if we have suppressed it for whatever reason that might have, happened in our life, various conditioning and stuff like that. So good for you for tapping into your creativity and for maybe bringing us something that helps other people tap into their creativity.
Thank you. I was also, I should say, I was inspired by my mother. My mother passed away a couple of years ago, and sorting through all her possessions, she had all these things she considered treasures. And I realized that the way she expressed her creativity was by setting beautiful tables and making beautiful holidays.
All right.
And that was the beginning of my thinking, like, creativity doesn't just mean one thing. There's a lot of different aspects to it.
Right. Well, it sounds fascinating, and I'm sure it's going to be absolutely exciting and inspirational. So, without any further delay, I'd like to invite everyone, please pay attention now, give full attention, put down your cell phones, and just, give your heart and your ears to Laurie Morin as she reads chapter 2, Break Out the Good China, Cultivating Creativity in Daily Life.
So my chapter starts with a quote from Maya Angelou. You can't use up creativity. The more you use, the more you have. Have you ever told yourself that you're not creative? Many of us learned that story as children, when the educational system categorized us as brainy, athletic, artistic, musical, or socially gifted. In elementary school, I was labeled as a shy brainiac, and I believed it. As an analytical, left-brained law professor, I thought creativity was reserved for people with a special, divinely bestowed gift for art, music, or literature. It was not for people like me, who were so bad at art that I got my first D from my fifth grade teacher. Many years later, my mother told me Miss Bean gave me a D in art to show me that I wasn't perfect. But the damage was done. I spent most of my life believing creativity was reserved for more talented people. The gift of wisdom I learned much later in life is that everyone is creative. It's not a special gift bestowed on a select few. It's our birthright as human beings with free will and imagination to create the story of our lives. The best part is that we have multiple ways of expressing our creativity. The more we pursue one creative outlet, the more creativity we find in other areas of our lives. This insight literally changed my life. I now see creativity everywhere and use my imagination to create a more beautiful life. When you start flexing your creative muscles, your life becomes a masterpiece in the making. My story. My journey to a more creative life started during the pandemic. I retired and was bored, stuck in a new home in a strange city with no friends and no job to occupy my day. Our new house had a cement slab smack dab in the middle of the small yard, disconnected from anything. It reminded me of the Joni Mitchell song about paving paradise to put up a parking lot. So I decided to build a flagstone path connecting the cement slab to the back steps, transforming it into a walkway that led to the garden. This project was an aberration from my usual desk job. I wasn't particularly handy with tools, but I did my research and ordered supplies online from Home Depot. When the delivery truck arrived, they laid down 2 pallets in the driveway and loaded them up with 200 concrete pavers, 50 pounds of gravel, 50 pounds of concrete, sand, and a container of polymeric sand. The driver handed me a roll of plastic edging, a rubber mallet, and a hand tamper to level the gravel. I handed him a $20 bill for his troubles. What have I gotten myself into? I have no idea what to do with all this stuff. That was the beginning of a grand adventure into home improvement. After 2 weeks of digging out a path, laying down gravel, tamping it down to level, and fitting pavers to the curved walkway, I was ready to add the final layer of polymeric sand to hold my mosaic masterpiece together. I could hardly believe the results. I created something beautiful out of an ugly patch of cement, and nothing could stop me. Next, I extended the sidewalk in the other direction to connect to the back gate. Looking with new eyes at a barren patch of dirt on the other side of the yard, I envisioned a rectangular outdoor dining patio. That more ambitious project required some outside muscle to dig out the 10 by 12 foot rectangle and lug the 24-inch, 35-pound pavers from the driveway. My helpers weren't as meticulous with the level as I was, and the results were less than perfect. but it dramatically transformed our backyard from a desolate wilderness to an idyllic sanctuary. Like most home improvement projects, the backyard is still a work in progress. Over the years, my partner and I added a pergola, bubbling fountain, mood lighting, and dozens of landscaping plants. But every time we have a barbecue or sit out in the afternoon sun, I marvel at having a hand in creating such beautiful surroundings. What am I going to do next? It's getting cold, and the pandemic doesn't seem to be leaving. This will be a long winter with nowhere to go and nothing to do. My home improvement project opened my eyes to the many forms of creativity. I started seeing possibilities everywhere. I can pull out the batik fabrics I love through 2 moves and make a quilt. I could learn to play the band sitting in its case from last Christmas. I can create an online photo album to share family photos with the next generation. It slowly dawned on me that I was creative all along. I just hadn't claimed it. I sewed most of my clothes in junior high school. I wrote and performed plays with the neighborhood kids on the front porch of my parents' barn. I created leaf people from the fallen oak leaves in our backyard and turned oatmeal boxes into Santa Claus containers for homemade cookies. Why did I give up my dreams of becoming a dancer or writer? I guess I believed the story that I wasn't one of the gifted ones. Is it too late to create a new story for my third chapter of life? A few years ago, at an entrepreneurial retreat, I was fascinated by a spiritual writing exercise led by best-selling author and writing coach Tom Bird. After a short meditation with sacred music to connect us to our inner guides, he told us to start writing. Don't think about the words, he said. Just keep your pen on the paper and write whatever words flow through you. The 20 minutes he gave us to capture our soul's desire flew by. Now I understand what Wayne Dyer said at the Hay House You Can Change Your Life conference. The words I'm writing aren't coming from me, but flowing through me. I am being divinely led. Inspired, I enrolled in Bird's Write a Book in a Weekend virtual retreat during spring break. Holed up in a scenic hotel on the Chesapeake Bay, surrounded by stunning vistas and blessed silence, we did 30-minute writing stints for 3 days, broken up with 10-minute stretch breaks and 2 longer meal breaks. Each session started with a short meditation to get us into the zone, followed by automatic writing without moving our pens from the paper. My back ached, my fingers cramped, and my restless mind begged for diversions. Why am I sitting in this air-conditioned hotel room when it's so beautiful outside? Maybe I should take a walk. It must be almost time for a break. Why didn't I bring more snacks? All this thinking is exhausting. I need a nap. But I stuck with the plan, determined to make the most of this rare opportunity to write something more creative than a law review article. By the end of the weekend, I filled a large notebook with fragments of my stream of consciousness writing. On the last day, we took out a large poster board and tried to organize our thoughts, using Post-it notes to map out our book's beginning, middle, and end. On the 2-hour drive home, my mind was filled with visions of finally becoming a published author. But the same old doubts took over when I reached home. I have no idea what to do with this mess. There are a lot of words and ideas here, but how am I supposed to turn them into a book? Who cares about my boring life? I don't have anything original to say. So the poster board, full of words and ideas, went behind the bookshelf in my home office, where it languished until I retired and had time on my hands. Maybe I should pull that storyboard out of its hiding place. I don't remember what I was writing about, but I have plenty of time to figure it out. By some miracle, the storyboard survived the move to North Carolina. The color-coded Post-it notes were faded and the glue dried up, but they were mostly organized by topic. The notebook pages were intact, and most of the free writing was legible, but I couldn't remember what I thought when I wrote them or what message I intended to convey. Guess I'll have to go back to the drawing board. At least I'm not starting from scratch. Maybe I'll start by typing the fragments into Microsoft Word. That way I can cut, paste, and rearrange them until I figure out how they fit together. That was the origin of my first book, Shiro's Journey. I was finally a published author, almost 50 years after giving up my childhood dream. Sending a book out into the world gave me the courage to reclaim my creativity, which has flourished ever since. I've written 5 chapters for collaborative books, dozens of articles on Medium and Substack, and hundreds of blog and social media posts. Now I'm working on a dual timeline historical novel based loosely on my experiences during the 1970s. The most amazing thing is how it spilled over into other areas of life. I stood up to Miss Bean's internalized voice and took a drawing course, painted a mandala stone, and took up doodling. I pulled out my mother's best china and set a beautiful table for Thanksgiving. I took a handpan lesson and started dancing with my former Mia teacher. If you think that kind of creativity isn't for you, let me assure you it is. It's all a matter of perspective. You don't have to be a famous writer, visual artist, musician, or dancer. Once you start viewing the world through a creative lens, you'll begin to see you've expressed creativity in your daily life without even recognizing it. My tool will introduce you to 10 creative archetypes that go beyond the usual stereotypes of visual artists, musicians, authors, or dancers. I guarantee you'll see yourself reflected in one or more of them. The tool. Step 1, identify your creative archetypes. We're all familiar with archetypes, even if we don't know the technical definition. Storytellers like Joseph Campbell use them to depict characters on a mythical hero's journey. If I asked you who the hero of Star Wars was, you'd immediately think of Luke Skywalker. If I mentioned the mentor archetype in Harry Potter, Dumbledore would come to mind. That is the power of archetypes. They're part of our collective consciousness and universally recognizable. The creative archetypes I describe here aren't based on any scientific framework, though they draw on my fascination with the works of Carl Jung, Joseph Campbell, and Carolyn Myss. These archetypes are based on my observations of how people in my personal sphere express their creativity. I think you'll recognize them and probably could develop more creative archetypes from your life experience. The first step in this tool is to identify which of the creative archetypes sounds most like you. Use your intuition as your guide. Your creative skills may be in the kitchen, garden, or home. They may be connected with other people, animals, or spirit. You probably never considered them creative, but they're the language you use to express your unique personality and gifts. As you read through the descriptions, highlight or circle words or phrases that resonate with you. We will use them later to develop your creativity roadmap. The trendsetter. The trendsetter is talented at spotting what is fresh and new. They know the best shows streaming on Netflix and Hulu and can give you a review of every new restaurant in town. Trendsetters don't always follow the trends. They use their influence to set them. They can throw together an outfit from the thrift store and look like they stepped out of the pages of Vogue magazine. Next thing you know, we're all wearing kilts with lace-up army boots. That's a trendsetter. The naturalist. The naturalist expresses herself by living in harmony with nature. Naturalists use their creativity to build beautiful gardens, rescue sea turtles, or nurture baby bluebirds in their miniature houses. Their Facebook feeds are filled with photos of ancient trees, blossoming flowers, and intricate spider webs. They create beauty from nature's bounty and live in harmony with their surroundings. The designer. The designer uses her creativity to turn her home into a work of art. Designers follow the latest decorating trends and scour local furniture shops for unique finds. Their homes could be featured in Architectural Digest. Designers put thought and creativity into everything they do around the home. Their tables are set with the finest china and crystal, adorned by flowers and candles. Designers turn ordinary moments into extraordinary opportunities to express their creative flair. The magician. The magician's special genius is the art of creating transformation with a little abracadabra. They love to upcycle used furniture and vintage clothing from flea markets. Magicians use their resourcefulness to create a silk purse from a sow's ear. They see possibilities everywhere they look and use their creativity to repurpose the old into the new. The crafter. The crafter's joy comes from making things with their hands. They love to shop at stores like Michael's or Hobby Lobby for inspiration and enjoy taking up new hobbies like knitting, stained glass, quilting, or woodworking. Crafters enjoy the zen of keeping their hands busy while socializing or watching television. Crafting makes creativity accessible even to those who didn't excel in art. They get to express their individuality and see something beautiful emerge from nothing. The human connector. The human connector has a flair for bringing people together. They put their creativity into throwing the best dinner parties and cultivating friendships with people who bring different interests and perspectives to the table. Human connectors go all out for the holidays like Halloween, creating elaborate costumes, decorations, and party games. They love to create a spectacle, and people stand in line to get invited to their parties. The spiritual seeker. The spiritual seeker's genius is connecting with a higher power. They use their intuition and vision to interpret tarot cards, decipher dreams and visions, and bend energy for emotional and physical healing. Spiritual seekers speak in symbols and metaphors. Their genius is in distilling messages from the unknown into language and meaning. The creative gourmet. Food is the love language of the creative gourmet. They can transform ordinary ingredients into a visually appealing smorgasbord of treats. Creative gourmets love experimenting with different combinations of flavors, tweaking recipes to accentuate their unique take on a favorite dish. Their creativity turns food into a gourmet feast for the eyes and the palate. The traditional creative. The traditional creative expresses herself through literature, music, dance, theater, painting, or other visual arts forms. You don't have to be a renowned expert to be a traditional creative. Many of us dabble in the arts, performing in community theater or chorales, writing books or screenplays, or creating visual art for local galleries and art fairs. The problem is we don't think we're good enough to call ourselves creative. Our inner critic sabotages our unique voice, so it's afraid to come out of hiding. To live a more creative life, we may have to give up our dreams of being the next virtuoso and embrace the process of expressing ourselves more freely. Step 2. Claim your creative gifts. I hope you resonated with one or more of the creative archetypes or created one of your own. Now it's time to claim your gifts and create a plan to amplify their presence in your life. In this part of the process, you'll follow the clues to your creative expression. Do you always get compliments about something you do, but dismiss them because it comes so easily to you? Is there something you love doing so much that you'd gladly do it for free? Do you have a secret dream of doing something, but your inner critic tells you that you're not good enough? If any of these responses occur to you, it's a hint that you're hiding from your creative genius. Give yourself permission to claim it and see how your creativity expands. Here are some simple journal prompts to get you thinking. 1. List 3 ways you already express creativity in your life. 2. List 3 creative things people always compliment you on. 3. List 3 creative dreams you have given up. 4. List 3 things you love so much you would do them every day for free. Step 3. Develop your creative roadmap. The last part of the process seems simple, but it's the most profound. From the list you created in step 2, choose 3 simple steps you could take today to embrace your creativity. You don't have to start big. When I cleaned out my mother's pantry after she passed away, tucked up on the top shelf, I found an etched cut glass serving bowl she received as a wedding gift in 1951. Mom often talked about the bowl and imagined bringing it out of hiding for a special occasion. But the special occasion never happened, and the bowl sat in its original box for 70 years. Mom's bowl, filled with Murano glass fruit, sits on my dining room table as a daily reminder not to wait for a rainy day, but to embrace beauty and creativity every moment. Now it's your turn. Identify 3 simple steps you can take to express your gifts and watch your creativity unfold.
What a lovely chapter. I
Thank
love
you, David.
all of the creative ideas you have, the idea of the archetypes. I think that's really a brilliant idea. And yeah, encouraging people to tap into an archetype or define one of their own so that they can, find a way to express their creativity in a new way. Brilliant.
Thank you. It's made a big difference in my life.
Yeah. And well, your own journey of maybe suppressing your own creativity after having heard some negative feedback.
Right.
And then, having this strange belief that I'm not really creative, your message is very, very common. It's something that I think probably 90% or even more of adults go through. And they really have to find a way to get through that negativity in order to reconnect to their creativity.
Yes, I agree. I think that's true. And the other half of it is we think if we're not perfect or we're not the maestro, then we're not good enough and we shouldn't do it.
That's right. That's right. Absolutely. I remember when I was, in my teens, 15 years old, I think, 15, I had the audacity to declare at home at dinner one night that I wanted to be a rock and roll musician. Well, I'm sure you can imagine the kind of conversation that followed.
Mm-hmm.
One of the phrases that I remember hearing that has always stuck with me is, for every successful musician, there's a million starving musicians.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously the intent, I'm sure they weren't deliberately trying to shut me down. Maybe they were, I don't know. But that's what the result was.
Right.
Put the fear of God into him so he stopped thinking about this.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And the other line I think people hear a lot is, you can't make a living doing that.
Right.
It's a nice hobby.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, and you talked about it yourself, think about the things that you love so much you would do it for free.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the fact of the matter is, if that's all you did and you did it for free, yeah, you probably wouldn't do very well.
True.
So part of the challenge that we have is not only to allow our creativity to express itself, but to be willing to accept in value in exchange for that gift.
I think so. And I think that's probably the next step on my journey.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, you're used to
I
working
would
for the
write for
man, aren't
free.
you? You've been in
Yes.
corporate business for, I don't know how many years. I mean, so have I.
Mm-hmm.
and we're used to, oh, you're going to pay me to do this job. And that's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
It's a job.
Right.
And so you say, okay, I'll do it. Luckily for me, I found a way to bring some creativity into my job. And so it wasn't totally unfulfilling, you know?
Yes, I had the same experience. I was a lawyer and law professor, and my colleagues would always say to me, "You're so creative." I would say, I didn't know what they were talking about.
Right.
But if you bring yourself to the table and you put yourself into it, then I think your creativity naturally comes out.
Yeah, that's right. And here's something else that I think that people maybe not don't really think about too much. You're going to find a way to be creative whether you want to or not, unless you're dead.
Mhm. Right.
Anybody who has a reasonably functioning brain and is a pretty normal human being is going to find a way to be creative. As you said, it might be learning how to cook the best lasagna.
Right.
you know and yeah.
They're going to find a way, but will they recognize that as being creative? That's.
Right. Yeah. Well, I really love the way you talked about taking that crystal bowl of your mom's and putting it on the table and having that as a reminder. I think
Hmm.
that's a beautiful a kind of a little ritual that you created for yourself.
Right.
Other people might come into your house and see it and say, "Oh, that's really very nice." But
Hmm.
it has a very special meaning.
Yes, it does. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so how do you feel now after having read that and shared your chapter?
It was interesting to read it out loud. Um, it was my story, and it felt very real,
Hmm.
but it also felt like, oh, am I preaching too much here?
Well, it
Um,
certainly didn't come across that way. All right.
yeah.
It came
Okay,
across as very
good.
authentic and real to me. That's how I felt it.
That's good to hear. Thank you, David.
Well, thank you, Laurie, for sharing. It's beautiful. And everybody, please just, that's just another example. How many times now I don't know how many chapters you've read yet, or if you're reading them in order or listening to them in order or what you're doing, but I want you to know that this is another example of the amazing and inspiring material that's available in this beautiful book, Gifts of Wisdom. And if you haven't already purchased a copy, or if you'd like to maybe give one to one of your friends or a relative, maybe you know someone who's struggling with creativity, well, head over to our Amazon book page, and the link is right there on the screen below. Pick up a couple of copies and distribute them to your friends. That's what would be really great. And of course, if you'd like to connect with Laurie Morin directly, please reach out to her on her website at lauriemorin.com. That link is also on the screen below, and you can find out more in the book. She's got some other information there. Thank you for stopping by. I hope to see you again for the other videos in this chapter reading series. Love, light, and blessings to you on your continuing journey. Bye-bye for now.